Smith, and I'm president of Richfield Civic Organization. Our group is hosting the event tonight. And on behalf of our group, I'd like to welcome you to this evening's candidate night. In just a moment, I'm going to turn this evening's program over to Jackie Darrow, who's a member of the League of Women Voters Akron area, and she's filling in for Barbara Hunsinger, who is ill. So this is kind of thrown into Jackie's lap at the last minute. So I'm sure she'll do a great job. And I also wanted to mention, I just found out there was a miscommunication that 3:30 to go is here tonight. And I can live streaming it now, but then it'll be available on YouTube and you say Facebook. Okay. And he'll send me a link and we'll try to get that out to people. Put it on the Civic Organization Facebook page. Okay, so I'm going to explain the basic format for tonight's forum. We've provided you with personal information about the candidates. It was a typed handout that was back on the table there. And by doing this, we've eliminated the need for opening remarks from each candidate and have added more time for questions. The audience, from the audience, that's it. Questions will first be addressed to Revere School Board candidates and then to Richfield Village Council candidates. Since the two township trustee candidates are running unopposed, they relinquish their time so that the other candidates would have more time. Each candidate will have an opportunity to address all questions directed toward his and her particular group and will be allowed up to 1.5 minutes per question. Our members have been distributing forms for you to write your questions on. We ask you to put one question per form. We will collect the forms throughout the program, so please raise your hand if you have a question form to be picked up. The forms will be then given to representatives of the league and from the Richfield Civic Organization, who will screen them for duplication as well as to make sure they're not addressed to a particular candidate, they're just of a general nature. The screened question forms will then be given to the moderator, who will address the questions to the candidates. After each group completes its question period, individual candidates from that group will be allowed up to 1 minute for closing comments. I would like to mention that Village Council candidate Joyce Parton was unable to attend tonight due to a required work trip out of town. Yes, I let everybody know. I'd now like to call on Jackie, who's going to introduce the candidates and get this program started.
Thanks so much, Karen, and thank you for making all the arrangements for tonight's event and keeping everyone up to date about. Thank you. About the candidates that will appear on the ballot Tuesday. So, welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidate Forum. The candidates running for the Revere School Board and the Richfield Village Council. My name is Jackie Darrow, and I will be your moderator for this event. I'm joined here tonight by league members Claudia Howard and Dave Shantz, who will be your question timers, and Sophie Albrecht, Harry Skeen, and a member of the Richfield Civic Organization will be screening the questions. A little bit about the League of Women Voters. We are a nonpartisan political organization, which means that we do not support candidates or political parties. We can, however, take positions on issues when they are based on league studies. The work that the League does is made possible by member dues and donations. Things have just happened. And the dedication of League volunteers. If you are not a member, we encourage you to join. Memberships can be found on the information table or at our website, www.lwaa.org. Next Tuesday is voting day. And if you wish to vote early, please note that the Summit County Board of Elections has moved to 1050 Talmadge Avenue. I voted early, and I can attest to the fact that there's a lot more parking and there's a lot more room inside. So it's really a very nice facility. Okay, we're just about ready to begin. Audience, please remember to raise your hand to get a card for writing a question or to submit your written question. And members from the Richfield Civic Organization and the League will pick them up and pass them to screeners and then on to me. We're going to begin the Q&A period with the Revere School Board candidates. Candidates are running for 2 seats for 4-year terms. The candidates are in alphabetical order: Jeffrey Bowler, Jennifer Burke, Hayden Haiju, and Haidu. Hayden Haidu. Okay, and Keith Malik. I asked Mr. Haidu how to pronounce his name, and so I got it wrong. So, I'm going to begin the question and answer period with Mr. Malik. And the first question will go to him, and then the candidates will answer in the order that they're seated. Mr. Bowler will receive the second question first and down the line. So I don't have any prepared questions. So do we have any questions? Here they come. For the Q&A period, I remind the candidates to please stay within the allotted time limit of 90 seconds for each response. Okay, first question. During the last 5 to 8 years, Revere has been in the media for unfavorable coverage. Likewise, Richfield Elementary football coach. What can be done going forward to prevent this from happening? This question goes to Mr. Malik.
How do you prevent life from happening or situations from happening? Just to touch on a few of those, there was, I think you mentioned the football coach. It was an unfortunate situation right when I started on the board where football coach and one of his assistants, we were drinking while at camp. Football students were. When the district found out about it, we'd see our PD, their administrators went down there and took care of the situation. The football coach is no longer with us. You talked about Likewise. Likewise was actually never in our district. We have what's called a release time for religious education, which Supreme Court has said is, separation of church and state. There's no violation there. And we had a parent that requested at the time, and actually provided us the opportunity to give this parent choice. And eventually the state passed law that requires every district in the state of Ohio to have that policy. And we have. So to say we can prevent things from happening, I don't know how you do that. What you do is you make sure that you're prepared for when they do happen. I think the district was prepared. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the number one thing that you can do as a board member, we have two main responsibilities. Number one, hiring the superintendent and treasurer, and then empowering those two people to do their jobs, to set the culture for the district and ensure that they have all the tools necessary to make sure that our kids are achieving their goals and their aspirations. The other part is to look at current policy and make sure that our current policy is supporting our goals as a district, and also look at policy that's being debated or proposed. And as a board member, we need to ensure that we are looking at policy very closely to make sure our policy is following the law, the state law of Ohio, and to make sure that our policy is not leaving us open to litigation, to lawsuits and things of that nature that tend to put school boards in the news. So I think really the two most important things that you can do as a board member is to execute your job as a board member to the best of your ability, to make sure that you are a policy hawk, that you are looking at very closely to make sure it's tight, and to make sure that you are giving your superintendent and treasurer all the tools that they need to be successful so that they can go out and do things that they need to do.
Yeah, so as for Likewise, I'll just reiterate what Keith said. I never had a conversation with Likewise. I wouldn't know if Likewise were even in this building. I've never talked to them. We voted on religious release time, which we knew was going to be mandated from the state. So, there were a lot of rumors that we were having with conversations with Likewise. That never happened. I never once spoke to them. Don't know who represents them. Never had a conversation. As far as the football coach was concerned, I wasn't on the board, but I obviously was at the last meeting where parents came and complained. And I think that unfortunately, that coach made a really bad decision when he was away at camp. I don't know what policy you could put in place that would prevent a teacher from making a dumb decision. And then finally, the thing that happened in Richfield, we had a parent who said something that they shouldn't have said. We mitigated that issue right away by not allowing them to be in the building. We did do a survey with our teachers to find out some things, and at that point, we just agreed that it was probably best that we move in different directions. But overall, I do think life does happen, but I think we've been very proactive in the way that we've handled things. And I think we've always tried to, even if we've made mistakes, try to do the right thing and what's best for the community.
Yeah, I will agree that it is really difficult to mitigate every single situation that could come across. Bad things will happen. There will be bad press at some point in time. But that's the point that we should be looking to our administration and our school board for transparency, clear communication, answers to the questions that we have. And when I think back to the LifeWise situation and the situation with the Richfield principal, what I observed is that the community had a lot of questions that weren't answered. And there's still a lot of questions out there. And what I'm feeling from the community is that they don't have a lot of clarity or a lot of transparency into the decision-making process, and also understand what is happening, that these situations have allowed to kind of blow up into these bigger issues.
Thank you very much. We'll start with Mr. Bowler for the second question. We currently understand that the Special Education Department, the U.S. Federal Special Education Department, will no longer have funding. What is your plan to support students who receive special education services at Revere?
So I think anything that has to do with curriculum, first you have to collaborate, just like anything else. And you need to get all the stakeholders in the room, our curriculum director, our superintendent, all the people that make decisions when it comes to our curriculum for all of our children, but in any of our programs. And you need to figure out where the holes are, where are there areas of opportunity for us to improve. Once you decipher where you have issues, where there might be gaps, where we might need funding, then you come up with a plan. And you put that plan into place, and you make sure that you hold those stakeholders accountable to that plan. I think the most important thing is when you find areas in your school district that have an opportunity for improvement, who are the people that are going to be making the decisions to make sure that those things are improved? You bring those people into a room, you put a plan in place, and you make sure that those people are accountable, and you have measurable and attainable goals to reach those goals, and then you continually communicate with those people to make sure that they're doing the things that they need to do to make sure that you're accomplishing what you need to accomplish.
Yes, Mr. Hyder, please.
Yeah, so we've started an initiative this year that every student thrives. So we're trying to look at every student and figure out how we can be intentional with them and pour ourselves into them to make sure that every student thrives. So that goes from kids that are in special ed to kids that are, kind of the middle of our, grades where, to the gifted kids. So we're going to be intentional at looking at ways that we can affect every teacher. We've also put some, I think, goals for our staff as far as putting them into groups where they can hold each other accountable, having conversations, talking to them, looking at our data intentionally, really looking at our data and figuring out how can we help these kids progress from when they start school to when they finish school? How can they have the greatest experience they can? So I don't, for any reason, see us not looking at our special education department and pouring as much of our love and attention into them as we would our gifted kids or our kids that finish in the middle of the road. Every student that goes to Revere is important, and we want to look at every student and give them the best experience that they can have possible.
Thank you. Ms. Bowler.
I missed first, but thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. I think when it comes to special education, we really need bench strength in our central office. And I do believe that with the addition of Nikki Campbell as Director of Operations, we do have some really strong bench strength in our central office. But really, when it comes to those kids who have special needs and who have special education, I think that their parents just want their children to be seen for who they are and what their needs are, and to make sure that their rights are, that they have free access to their rights, such as access to public education in a least restrictive environment as possible. I think that what we really need to have tight is our IEP process, make sure we're supporting our counselors and our psychologists and everybody who's evaluating those children and coming around those families to provide those supports. And I think also we need to make sure that we're providing access to parent advocates for those families so they understand what their rights are for their children and they can have the support they need as they walk through that process.
Thank you. Mr. Malik.
You mind repeating the question? I thought it had to do with finances in regard to special education. Can you repeat that question?
We understand the special education department will no longer have funding on a federal level. What is your plan to support students who receive special education services at Revere?
I thought I heard you right first time. In regard to funding, Revere received little federal funding as it relates to programs at the district. I don't see any gap with what's going on nationally affecting us today. So hopefully bring some peace of mind for those of you who do have special needs kids within our district. And we continue to find ways to ensure that we are addressing the needs of all of our kids, including our special needs kids. Our preschool classes are increasing. We do where we have disabilities paired with our peer support. And that allows our youngsters who have disabilities to be paired up with your traditional kids, with your kids that might be mentors to them as they work their way through your system. And what we have seen is an influx at that level, which tells us that we must be doing something really good because we have kids that are coming in from other areas that parents want to come to Revere because of the program. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for giving up a little bit of your time. We want to move things along. So the next question goes to Mr. Haidu, and it is, before voting on policy changes, employment, or renewal of treasurer or superintendent, how will you connect with staff, students, and voters? And how might this be different than you have done in the past?
So are you talking about voting on policy change or renewing the?
For the hiring of a treasurer, the hiring of a superintendent, and this questioner is asking, how will you connect with staff, students, and voters? So
Sure.
how will you impose?
So when it comes to policy, I mean, 85% of our policy is state mandated. The policy that is unique to us is, we get from Evelyn Wagner, but those things that are unique to us are like our dress code. We have an AI policy that's more stringent than a lot of schools that will soon be a state policy. So I don't think I would look for the community members to help with policy because they expect people that they voted for to work with policy. So we work directly with our superintendent and our administration. When it comes to hiring a superintendent, we just recently hired a superintendent and we had a ton of community involvement with that. Small groups. We took, I think it was a 2-month process and interviewed people and had them ask them questions. And then we brought them into a room with a bunch of different people and, they went around and answered questions. So I think we did a really good job for that. When it comes to hiring the treasurer, I think that's a decision that the board makes. I don't personally, for me, I wouldn't go outside and look for staff or community. I think we have to feel comfortable with working with the treasurer, and I think we've done a really good job because our treasurer has done a really good job of making sure we're fiscally responsible and we haven't had to go to a levy or ask for a levy, I think, in 11 or 12 years.
I think when it comes to the board's responsibilities of hiring superintendent, treasurer, evaluating them, et cetera, and setting policy, it is incredibly important to have community input and to understand and to listen to community members, particularly when they're asking questions or expressing concerns. And as regards to policy, policy is not law and law is not policy. So the state, yes, a lot of our policies came about because a law was passed. But then we have to figure out as a district how we're going to uphold that law and what that looks like for Revere. And so it's really vitally important that we have input from staff and administrators as to what that looks like if we put that policy in place. Because if they can't follow the policy, we'll be in violation of the law. So the cell phone policy, I thought the district did a fantastic job asking for community and staff input with that. Also with the policy around the Parents' Bill of Rights. But what I don't want to see is a copy and paste of the law and that becomes our policy, because we really do need to understand the day-to-day impact for our staff and students when we're putting that policy in place.
Thank you, Ms. Burke, for the compliment regarding our two most recent policies that the board has passed. As it relates to policies, the hiring, obviously we want to be transparent. We want community involvement, and we have done that. In regard to policies, I can share that our superintendent recently held listening and learning tours. Gather feedback directly from our parents, our staff, students with our two most recent policies. And that allowed us as a board to understand some of the differences that each of our community members might have, or our staff and our students, to ensure that we try to embed those within our policy. As it relates to hiring, we've been lucky enough, not I've been here for 7 years, not to have to hire a new treasurer. We have hired 2 new superintendents. I've been here over the past 7 years, and we did conduct focus groups. We asked our staff, we asked our community members to be a part of those. They were part of the interview process when Mr. White was recently hired. So we encouraged that involvement. We wanted that feedback and allowed us as a board to make an informed decision as to what not only we would like, but what our community wants. I think we did a good job with that. Thank you.
Mr. Bowler.
So I think it is absolutely critical to engage the community when you're on the board. I don't think that your connection and your listening to the community ends when you are voted into your position. Yes, the community is empowering you to make decisions and they can trust you, but I don't think that stops when the election is over. I think you need to continue to proactively reach out to the community, especially when you're passing fundamentally policy that would fundamentally change, potentially fundamentally change the experience of a student at Revere. And I will give you an example. I have been campaigning for 120 days, 4 months, and I've been knocking on doors. I've had hundreds and thousands of people come through my shop. And one of the most consistent things that I hear on feedback on the current board is that there is a distrust because the people do not feel like they have been listened to when issues have arisen, mainly with the LifeWise policy. And so the feedback that I'm getting from the people that vote for me is that they do want to continue to be listened to when we are voted onto the board. They do want to have their voices heard. And we have a lot of really smart people in this community and that could have really good input when we're making big decisions. And I think when we are making those big decisions, although we are not obligated, I think it is critically important to proactively reach out. If there's something big coming, engage the community, let them know, inform them, be transparent about that, what's going to happen, allow them to have a discussion about it with you. And I think that leads us to having better policy, not passing bad policy that could, again, potentially lead us to litigation and lawsuits. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hyde, the next question. Oh, Mr. Okay. You the last time. Okay. Mrs. Bowler.
Hi, Mrs. Burke.
Oh, I took it. What did I say? I should the school board, along with school administration, handle the use of AI in the education of the students in K through 12.
AI is an incredibly powerful tool. It's a little bit frightening what people are doing with AI, especially deepfake videos, all of those sorts of things that you see. But we are in the business of preparing our kids for success. And what I will tell you is that my company is dedicating all of Q4 to training everybody in our company how to use AI to become more efficient, to do our jobs better, to be more in tune with our customers and so forth. So it's vitally important that our staff and our administration are staying up to speed on these trends. They're identifying what the risks are of use of AI, but they're also using the appropriate use of AI as a tool to our kids. I don't advocate this for younger grades. I think that the longer we wait to introduce our kids to technology and social media and freedom on the internet, the better. But it's going to be important for them to understand, not only to recognize it, to understand if what they're seeing is true or not true, and then also how to use it to be successful, to be efficient. It's the way that the world is going.
Mr. Malik.
Thank you. So one of the things I think that Revere has prided itself on is staying up with the times and being proactive, understanding where not only our area is going, but where the world is. And AI is something that is here. We might not all like it, but we have to understand it. And we have to also remember that our youngsters are probably a lot better at technology than we are. So the goal here is to make sure our administrators and our teachers have the proper professional development so that they understand how AI can be used as a tool. We don't want to use it as a substitute for learning. We don't want to use it as a crutch, but it can be used as a tool. And the key there is to make sure that our educators are properly trained, they have the professional development necessary so that they guide and educate our students on their performance in utilizing AI, again, as a tool and not as a crutch.
Yeah, I think technology and innovation are extremely important. Coming from the sports world, when we were looking to bring young people into our organization, we wanted them to have a pulse on what was coming down the line and be educated and be able to help us. I think, to Keith's point, one of the most important parts of that is to make sure that our internal staff and team are educated and experts in those areas. And that goes back to my point previously about curriculum and relying on the team that we have hired, our teachers, our wonderful educators, our curriculum directors, to make sure that they know what's going on with AI, they have studied it, and they are the experts, and then empower them to go out and execute within our schools on what is best for our students. And I think it will be different in every school and in every age group. But that comes back to all of us getting in a room and discussing AI. How can it help our schools? How can it help our kids be prepared for college and beyond? And what programs can we put in place to best have them suited for the future?
The other one. Mr. Hyder.
Yeah, I think we're already putting some of those pieces into place as far as AI and looking what we can embrace and kind of where we need to put on some guardrails. So I do think AI is a really terrific tool. I think if it's used correctly, I think it can really enhance learning. I think people think of AI as just the ChatGPT piece of it, but I think there are some wonderful tools where you can take virtual field trips and you can have conversations with, different people. And I think it allows you to kind of deepen your educational experience. But I also think we have to have guardrails to make sure the kids are using AI in the right way, because if you just go on and type in information, you might not get the right information that you need. And if you're not, doing your due diligence and double checking that information, you could be writing a paper and putting in the wrong information. You could be plagiarizing someone. So I think if you use AI correctly, it almost enhances kids to study even harder because they have to do the work and then do the backup work. But I do think, we're at a time where it's something that we definitely have to embrace. But I just think we have to be careful, how quickly we move forward. But I do think it's a tool that's going to be around. And so far, I think Revere's done a good job of embracing it.
Thank you. Mr. Malik, next slide. Brent? Yes. You guys got to keep me straight. So this questionnaire is talking about the 46 $6 million school board budget, and I can't attest to that, but regarding the budget, what measures will you propose to reduce costs at the district?
To reduce costs, well, first of all, let's talk about where we're at currently. Right now, you see a lot of unrest and nobody knows what's going to happen on the state level. So I can tell you from a district standpoint, we've been very fiscally conservative over the. We have a $25 million reserve, and the hope is that if we do get hit by whatever veto overrides that our legislature puts into place, that the district is prepared. We could sit here all day and talk about the what ifs that could happen at the state level. But what I can say is that the district constantly looks at ways to save money. When it comes to hiring, we can't always hire or buy the Ferrari. Sometimes you do have to buy the Chevy. What does that mean? We might have young new teachers out of college that we have to hire. It's not because they're not good. They just might not have the experience. But thankfully, we have such excellent teachers at our district. They can serve as mentors to help those younger teachers that might not cost us the fortune that maybe an AP teacher might cost, but allows us to build on our district teaching group. And that's one way that we try to save. You know, there are, thumbs up.
So I believe the current operating budget is 49 million. And the percentage of that comes from the issue that I know everybody is thinking about and talking about is our property taxes. 38 million of that $49 million operating budget comes from property tax. So we are all watching what's happening at the state level to see where that is going. It's not something that we can make decisions on right now because there's nothing tangible to make decisions about, but something is probably going to happen in that realm. And I think, again, we are very fortunate to have a treasurer who's experienced, who has a pulse of what's going on, not only at a state level, but federally. And we can rely on him to continue to monitor what's going on with those, the current bills that are, there's 10 to 12 current bills that are being proposed right now. Some of them have passed the House already. One of them would cause a $4.5 million potential deficit for us over a 5-year period. So those are things that we need to pay very close attention to. As a board, we need to understand what's happening at the state level. We need to understand what the repercussions would be. And more importantly, we need to have a plan. What is going to happen if we end up losing money? So the other thing I'll say is that reducing costs are obviously important. Where we hire people, how we hire people, their experience. But we also, your investments in our school are investments. And we want to make sure that we're using those dollars to maximize the potential of our kids. So it is also about finding ways to spend that money in a way that puts our kids in the best position to be successful.
Yeah, the question was, what would we want to cut from the budget? Is that correct?
What measures will you propose to reduce costs at the district?
Well, I think like Keith said, I don't think it's necessarily that we are trying to reduce certain costs. I think we're very smart in who we hire and who we look to hire. Like he said, if we can hire a teacher who maybe is first, second, third year, we put them in a group where they can be mentored. So, you know, that's one way we do things. I know there's certain positions where, you know, certain teachers where we can find a newer teacher, so we try to do that. You know, when you talk about cutting budget, I would just say, well, besides the hiring of teachers, you know, what would you want to cut? I don't want to cut the band program. I don't want to cut, you know, I don't have 25 kids in a class because we're hiring less teachers. You know, I do think Jeff brings up a good point. Like, we are investing in our kids, and we've been very fiscally responsible where if these, you know, things do come down the pipeline from House Bill 335, we're in a good spot where for a few years, we're not going to have to go to a levy. We might have to readjust the way we've been spending money, but I also am not in favor of just cutting money to cut money for something that might happen. I'm in favor of saving and doing the right things. But I also, I don't want to take away a child's experience because we're looking to cut a few dollars here or there.
I don't have much to add to what the other candidate said, in that I've been really impressed with Mr. Burdine and how he's been very fiscally conservative with our dollars. They are spent very, very well. We're in a position that we don't need to look for new levy money in the next 5 years. And so to that end, I think we need to continue to make those fiscally responsible decisions. And fortunately, we're not in a position where we need to look to reduce costs. But again, it really depends what happens at the state level with regard to property taxes, because our budget is heavily dependent on property taxes from our district.
Okay. Okay, here's your last question. Why do you want to be a member of the Revere Board of Education?
Done 3 of these and nobody's asked that question. My family came to Bath Richfield area in the 1950s, and we have been here for 75 years. We have a genuine love and affection for this community, the people here. My wife and I moved back from Washington, D.C. 3 years ago, bought my childhood home. That's part of it. We are connected here. We care about it. I have 3 boys going into the system. The other part of it is I was taught by my grandparents, by my parents, if you don't like what's going on in the world, then get off your butt and do something about it. And I have a feeling in my heart about the leadership in the world. And at the state level, at a federal level, our representatives are not representing our best interests. And we need leaders who listen to the people that vote for them and go out and do the job they were elected to do, and not worry about their power or their influence, but worry about doing the right thing. And for this particular instance, it's doing the right thing for the most valuable asset that we have in this community, and that's our children. I can think of no better public service than coming back to where I went to school, making sure that our kids have the best chance to go out and become the world changers that I know they can be. So that's why I'm here today.
Mr. Hyde.
I'm a 1991 graduate, grew up in Richfield, actually spent 2 summers working for the village of Richfield, up in tar roads and working on the road crew and cleaning police cars. So Revere is very near and dear to my heart. My sister graduated from here. I have a daughter that graduated. I have 3 boys right now that are in high school. I've run for board twice before and did not make it. Finally ran, was elected, and just really enjoyed serving the community. I think if you know me, if you want to have a conversation or you have an issue, you can call me and I'm going to talk to you. If you disagree with me or you don't like me, or you have a problem, I'm okay with that. My goal is to do what's best for Revere, and I really would love for these kids to have the same experience that I had when I was at Revere. Revere's always been a great community. It's been a culture that I'm proud of. It's been like family to me, and I think over the last 5 years that I've served, I think that we have done an amazing job of keeping Revere strong, stable, top 25 rating, 100% graduation, 5-star rating. And I think when you graduate from Revere, you get the best of not only what Revere offers, but you get the best chance to make it in the world after high school, going to college, and then coming back and utilizing the connections that you make here at Revere. And even though we're 4 separate communities that make up one community, to me, it's the greatest place in the world, and I just love being a part of it.
Thank you. Mrs. Burke.
Like Hayden, I grew up in the district. I actually grew up in this little blue house right over here and love Richfield. It's in my bones. I was raised to engage in civics and to be involved in our community, and not to complain unless you were part of the solution. And that's why I'm running, is because I believe I have experience that's uniquely suited for this board role through my leadership roles throughout my career and my extensive background in policy language and manuals and procedures and all of that. I love Revere. I love the education I got here. I have benefited mightily from the strong academics that Revere provided me, along with the opportunity for extracurriculars like Girl Scouts and band and drama and all of those things. And when my husband and I moved back here from Massachusetts, that's why we chose this community to raise our kids, because I knew exactly what Revere would provide to our family and to our children. And I want to give back. I want to serve my community, and I believe that I have the skills and the qualifications to do so.
Thank you. Mr. Mallon.
Thank you. So I'm running for re-election because I believe in Revere. We are a great district, and I want to ensure that we protect and strengthen what's working. You know, we are a district that has academic excellence, personal responsibility, and one of the things that we strive for is to prepare our students for real world success. We are ranked in the top 5% in the state of Ohio. We had 100% graduation rate last year, 100%. That's unheard of. We also are a five-star school. We are thriving in academics, in sports, and in extracurriculars. We are high standard school. As a board, as a district, I believe we've been transparent. We put parents in the know. We want parents to be involved. We want parents to have a say. I want to make sure that we support what's made us good, and that is strong academics, discipline, obviously parental involvement, and mutual respect for our families and our educators. We also want to ensure that taxpayer dollars are used wisely and maintain a safe environment. We try to stay ahead of the curve when it comes to safety. So I'm honored to continue serving, and I hope I earned your vote.
Thank you. Thank you all. Now, so we have concluded the question and answer period. Everybody has responded to that question. And so we have concluded the Q&A period. Thank you all for your forthright comments. Each candidate will now make a 1-minute closing statement. And let's begin with Mr. Haidu and continue with Mrs. Burke.
Sure. So once again, I'm Hayden Haidu, and you know, I keep hearing our challengers say that we need a board that's more transparent or balanced. I'm not really sure what that means. Every board meeting is taped and available for you to watch online once it's over. Every records request that has been asked of us has been answered, and nothing has been revealed because there's nothing there. As far as balancing the board, I don't really know what that means. I mean, we're not divided by political lines. We have different people on the board right now that are political. We vote on what's best for the school and what's best for our kids. Our decisions always come down to our students and our community. It's never about politics or personal agenda. Over the past 5 years, I've helped Revere to a 5-star rating, 100% graduation rate, while keeping us financially strong, safe, and student-centered. It's been an honor to serve this community, and I would be honored to continue to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Burke.
I'd like to thank the Richfield Civic Organization and League of Women Voters for hosting this tonight. This campaign has been both challenging and rewarding. And through it all, what I've continually reminded myself is to just be yourself. And so what you've seen tonight, what you've seen at other candidate nights, and in every interaction that I may have had with you is genuinely who I am. Here's what I stand for. I value transparency. I value open conversation, perspective, and a growth mindset. I value our community and every family story within it. I will serve every person in this district as if they voted for me, because that's who I am, and that's what Revere deserves. So I hope that on November 4th, you will choose the leaders who will listen, respect, and unite this community.
Mr. Malik.
Thank you, Jackie. Good evening, and thank you again to the Richfield Civic Organization, the League of Women Voters, and to all of you for participating and listening. Again, I'm Keith Malik, and it's been my honor to serve on the Revere School Board for the past 7 years and the past 5 as the board president. Serving on this board takes more than good intentions. It takes experience, it takes integrity, and it takes transparency and steady leadership. When things get turbulent, you don't switch pilots midair. We stay the course with proven leadership that delivers results. I spoke about those results a short time ago. We strengthen safety. We've expanded opportunities and we keep our finances strong. There's been no new outbreak levy in 14 years. This campaign isn't about politics. It's about people, values, and results. If you want experience, student-focused leadership, I'd be honored to earn your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Vote.
So as I mentioned, I've spent the last 118 days sharing with voters in our community who I am and my qualifications. It's been an overwhelmingly positive experience despite some unfortunate challenges, including signs being vandalized, all of our signs, and people I've never met or spoken to claiming that I have some radical or progressive agenda and calling into question my integrity and character through those misrepresentations. Through it all, I've remained positive and laser focused on the main priority, the future of our district and the environment and educational experience we provide for all our students. I hope to make all my supporters proud if I earn the honor of serving on this board, but I also hope to make the people who do not vote for me proud. I believe this election could be an example that listening to someone's ideas and getting to know their heart, their credentials, and character hold far more weight than the letter of their political affiliation. I believe this election can demonstrate the power of a positive grassroots movement fueled without political party leverage. Regardless of the outcome, I remain committed to pouring my time, energy, and resources into uniting our community and helping all the children in this district become the world changers we know they can be. Thank you so much.
Thank you, candidates. This has been a long campaign, and I really want to express all of our gratitude for the energy that you put forward, in this campaign. So now it's up to the voters to go out and do their duty and vote. We're going to take a 5-minute break as the school board candidates exit, and we reset for the Village of Richfield Council candidates. So thank you so much. Let's give them a hand. But that means we don't have that much time to ask questions. Okay, so we're going to begin our candidate forum for the Village of Richfield Council. There are 10 candidates running for 4 seats for 4-year terms commencing January 1st, 2026. One of the candidates is unable to attend tonight, as Karen mentioned earlier. So in alphabetical order, the candidates are Carol Campbell, Monica Ann Day, Rich Hudak, Michael Lyons, Jeffrey Newman, Pat Norris, Jim Smith, Jeff Stoppenhagen, and Dave Wojcik. Each candidate will have 90 seconds per question response. So, let's see. Um, Okay, the first question for Ms. Campbell. Can you discuss where you stand on the abolish real estate tax movement? I don't know, it's the first question. Hi.
Can I ask for a different question?
No,
I don't know that I can answer that question.
that's okay. Move on to Ms. Day.
Well, I think that, the village is in a good position, even if state taxes, are abolished, because those taxes go to the police and fire pension, I believe, which would be affected, but we could shift and probably find other funds in the budget in order to help that. Most of the taxes in Richfield come from income tax. So, I think that we would be able to persevere and adjust in order to cover any shortages that we may have. Thank you. And also, we can look at other economic development techniques to possibly increase taxes and investment through tax increment financing on new businesses or development that come in, where a portion of those taxes can be invested, get a rate of return to help increase the amount of funds that we have available to spend within the community.
Mr. Hudak.
Thank you. Having served on the finance committee, we have just, but I'm going to be blunt. This would be devastating. It would be devastating to our schools. This would be devastating to our tax incremental financing because it's based on property. So you can't just replace a tax levy by taking other people's or purpose real estate taxes because we may not be collecting them at all. I like to hope and pray that cooler heads prevail and that there is a compromise here. I know, especially people that have lived here the longest, may be the ones that can least afford the increase in property tax. So what we could do is look at some homestead exemptions, which the village of Richfield has already done. Part of the good part of me being on council for 20 years is I've lived through 4 mayoral administrations and I see how hard they have all worked to try to keep our expenses to a minimum, and I thank you.
Mr. Lyons.
Well, with regard to the proposal or movement to eliminate real estate taxes, I think is unrealistic because so much of our system is based on real estate taxes and always has been based on real estate taxes. I think the movement is based on the rather rapid increase in property values, which has increased people's tax bills. I think that's what's behind this. And the legislature is looking at options to mitigate those increases, and I think that's appropriate. But I think the idea of eliminating property taxes is an unrealistic approach. With regard to the village has no levies, so it really does not rely on property taxes significantly. So that's not really a primary issue in this for the village.
Yes. Mr. Newman.
As far as the property taxes, once again, we can't abolish them. We need to bring them back in some. Things just have gotten so far out of control. Anytime any levy was asked for, everything was passed. There's no questions. Things just passed. I mean, besides that, like everyone else is saying also, the village itself is in good shape. The village really doesn't rely a whole lot on property taxes in general. Small portion, but the total ramifications, if everything was eliminated, there would be problems in the village also.
Sure.
As it's already been mentioned, the elimination of property taxes wouldn't affect the village to a great extent. I worry more about what it would do to the school system, which I feel is very important. I think that it's still rather early in the discussion stages. I don't think it's come to a situation where we're going to be asked to vote. I worry that most people would say yes, eliminate property tax. So my question would be, how do we replace funding for our schools if we don't have property tax? The village, I think, will be fine.
I agree with Pat that we haven't got anything to make a decision about at this point in time because they're still talking about it. It started out, let's reduce them for 65 years of age and older. Started out, let's just do it for the residential. And it could, they talk about eliminating for every property tax. A lot of that is conjecture. A lot of that is probably not going to happen. But as everybody mentioned, the village doesn't rely too heavily on the property tax. The township would suffer a little bit more. Obviously, the school system a little bit more. But for the village, I think we'd be in good shape.
Mr. Stoppenhagen.
So by the time it gets to this end, we're pretty much repeating what everybody said.
How it's going to go.
Everybody's correct. The village, a very small portion of your property taxes goes to the village. The vast majority of your property taxes goes to the school. If we eliminate property taxes, the schools are going to hurt. As was mentioned, the fire and police pensions are going to suffer. Our TIP for tax incremental financing is going to suffer. And we use that money to help portions of the village build infrastructure within the village. So if that goes down, where are we going to pay for things like sewers, water? How are we going to finance things that the village wants to do? The village itself would be fine, but we may have to increase income taxes when it comes to things like the schools, or there's going to be bigger levies. If the village gets really tight, we may have to start paying for your garbage and rubbish pickup. Every other service that's provided at no cost. On our house, I think $75 of our property tax a half goes to the village. It's not a lot. I don't think it's going to affect us dramatically, but something that I would be opposed against is a complete repealing of tax or property taxes.
Mr. Wojtek.
Well, I agree that we cannot eliminate property tax without having a plan of how we're going to get the funds that we're going to lose from that. And there's too many different items out there that we will lose. They'll hurt the school, libraries, items like that. And if we can't pay for that, where's it going to go? That mean our income tax is going to go up? I mean, you got to pay for it somehow. And without a plan, you should really start thinking about a plan right now, because if it does get voted in, it may not be by us, by somebody else. We need to have a plan on what to do if it does happen.
Okay, let's take back to, for the next question, to Mrs. Day. There has been a lot of discussion about zoning and zoning enforcement. Please explain your position about zoning and zoning enforcement and how it can be conducted in a fair and consistent manner, regardless of property ownership.
Um, zoning enforcement is really driven by the ordinances within the zoning code. And, our zoning department does a great job based on, complaints. And what really needs to happen is we need to apply those zoning code to those complaints consistently and fair across the board. I think that, we need to evaluate each of those situations, see if what challenges there may be for those property owners in holding the ordinances, and then working with them to come to a resolution on whatever the violation is. But we need to do that fairly and across the board for all property owners and not just some versus the other. And of course, I'm currently on Planning Commission and as chair, and we are in the process of rewriting the zoning code right now. So we are looking at all of those ordinances and how we can ensure that they are fair for the residents, but also support our properties and our home values through the regulations that we have.
Mr. Hudak.
Thank you. I have some pretty strong opinions on zoning in Richfield Village, but I also have the benefit of having served on the Board of Zoning Appeals for 6 years before I was elected to council. As far as enforcement goes, I think we have a very good system of doing that now. It's not all up to one person to do it. The administration, with council's approval, has come up with more of a complaint-driven or not going out and looking for people that are breaking laws, minor violations, but if there is something brought to the attention of the zoning department, it is addressed, and I think it's being addressed fairly across the board, from what I hear. And I am in Richfield day and night, so I do talk to a lot of people. I'm not hearing much of complaints about enforcement, so about how some of the zoning uses happen over the last few years. That's something else that I would like to talk to anybody individually that would like to talk to me. Phone number is very available. Thank you.
Mr. Lyons.
I think the question had something to do with enforcement of the code without regard to the owner of the property, which kind of implies maybe some feeling that the code has been applied unevenly depending on who owns the property. And I'm not. I'd have to understand the specific instance of that, but I'm not aware of any uneven application of the zoning ordinances. And the way I've looked at least enforcement of zoning, I think that the zoning code is, the purpose of it is to carry out our vision of the community, the comprehensive plan that we adopt for the community, some vision that we have of where we want our community to go. And I've always looked at zoning in terms of that kind of focus, as opposed to just looking at enforcement. Enforcement's important, but I think ensuring that our zoning resolution, our zoning regulations are designed to implement our vision for the community is more important as a focus than just enforcement. So that's a kind of philosophy that I've adopted, that kind of developed over time.
Thank you. Mr. Newman.
Yes. The way I'm really looking at it, when I moved here, this was a real nice rural community. Now, over the 20 some odd years, they're bringing more and more ordinances that are limiting what the residents could actually do anymore. I mean, like I said, we moved here because it was rural, peace and quiet. Neighbors, two neighbors, and nobody bothered with anybody else's neighbors. For the most part, we just being ordinanced to death, and they just keep passing more and more ordinances against things. And all that really needs to stop, all the foolishness like that.
Thank you. Mr. Norris.
I don't want to lose track of what the question really was, so let me just make comments, and if I miss something, let me know. I do believe that zoning is very important to protect neighborhoods and our property values. I believe that zoning enforcement has been done fairly in Village of Richfield. I served for 18 plus years on the Board of Zoning Appeals as my first involvement with village government. So that's the perspective from my vantage point that it is.
No, just the last part of the question was, can the enforcement be conducted in a fair and consistent manner?
Okay, my answer is yes.
Yes.
I believe it is
Yes.
done that.
Would you mind repeating the whole question?
Okay. That's for Mr. Smith. There's been a lot of discussion about zoning and zoning enforcement. Please explain your position about zoning and how, and enforcement, and how it can be conducted in a fair and consistent manner, regardless of property ownership.
Thank you. As far as the zoning, it's planning and zoning. So there are two components to that. And like was mentioned before, the direction that the village is taking as opposed to the enforcement issue for minor infractions. We have macro zoning and we have micro zoning. And yeah, it does need to be applied equally. And I think it has been applied equally. The ordinances have been enforced equally. I do think that we can't lose sight of the big picture of what we want in a community and how we want to live with each other, more importantly than some of the smaller issues. The zoning code needs to make sense. The zoning code has to be realistic, and the zoning code has to be fair for everyone. That being said, I'm excited to hear that the zoning code is getting looked at in January. I hope that I can be a part of that if I'm elected. I've got quite a bit of experience in the zoning world myself, and look forward
Thank
to.
you. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Stoppenhagen.
Was my time up?
Oh, the question? Oh, I thought I said. I apologize.
No, we're good.
Okay, sorry.
Code enforcement in the village is done strictly on a complaint basis. So if the neighbor grabs it too long and you complain of planning and zoning, they'll send someone out to look at it. That's good when it comes to certain aspects, but there are properties and businesses in town that are not only violating their conditional zoning certificates, but violating multiple ordinances. But the average person isn't going to know that. You're not going to see it when you drive by. So should we have a zoning inspector? I mean, we had Chief Morgan as zoning inspector for a while. Is adding another person, but it might be more fair in identifying code violations and enforcing them. Right now, planning and zoning does a great job with people. If people don't have the financial wherewithal to take care of their problems, they will work with them. They try to be as fair as they can, but if it's a complaint-based system, you can't be fair to everybody. Somebody's going to get away with something they shouldn't, and other people are going to get punished when they're doing what they should be doing.
Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Well, zoning and planning and zoning is very important. It should be enforced fairly and consistently. But most importantly, I think what I hear a lot from talking to people, there needs to be a little bit more transparency here. A lot of people complain about one thing and somebody else complains about something else. So somehow the information is not getting out to everybody. And with that, the zoning does need to be updated. I'm glad we're updating that because times change and we need to change. One of the big things that I think that we need to look at though too is what somebody has to do on 1 acre of land may not be the same as what somebody can do on 5 acres of land. And if we make everything fair, there needs to be a little bit of leeway in there to make a little bit more decision, because we're out here still in the rural area and we want to make sure people are still happy. with where they live.
Thank you. Let's pass it down to Mrs. Campbell.
All right. So zoning shapes Richfield for decades, so our code must meet today's needs while protecting our community's character. I do support responsible, balanced growth and believe residents should have a voice in every decision or in every development decision. Mixed use, family, multifamily or senior housing projects should fit our village vision, benefit everyone, not disrupt our neighborhood. When it comes to whether or not it's fair and consistent, I think for the most part it is, but I do think we can see some examples on our streets where sometimes it's not. And that leads to some confusion and that should be addressed. So again, for the most part, I think we are very fair and consistent, but there have been some exceptions and we've seen those on our streets.
Thank you. We're beginning the next question then with Mr. Huda. Thank you. Lucky you, yes. Please provide an example of a creative solution that you have championed or will champion to improve village efficiencies or resolve an issue impacting the village.
There is one particular instance that's going on right now that anybody that's been to a council meeting within the last probably 4 months has heard about. We have an issue with a drainage culvert, which is a big major project on Richfield Road, very close to Council Road. That's being handled and paid for. Around the corner on Richfield Road, going down toward 77, there is another culvert underneath Richfield Road, which is State Route 303. That was put in 32 years before there was a village of Richfield. Richfield Village had nothing to do with the installation of it. Many of us weren't even aware it was there. However, we have been told that the village of Richfield is responsible for the $300,000+ to replace that culvert. Yet the county, about a mile and a third away from it, on a county road, is paying for the entire cost. That is something that I've been vocal about, and I do believe I've convinced our administration and the other members of the council really need to look into this further. Thank you.
Mr. Lyons.
An example, could you repeat?
Please provide an example of a creative solution that you have championed or will champion to improve village efficiencies or to resolve an issue impacting the village.
Okay. Well, I would, I've been on a lot of things occurred to me. I was very much involved in the creation of the Joint Recreation District 10 years ago, and the acquisition of the Girl Scout camp. I'd say that was that began with council and activity there. So that's an example. Dating back to the mid-90s when Mayor Larson was mayor, we began planning for the south side of Wheatley Road, which has been an ongoing project for 30 years. And I've been closely involved in that ever since we began that process. We have, and there are other examples, but there's a number of examples. I did share the update of the comprehensive plan in 23 and 24. So I've been involved for nearly 40 years, and I think I've been actively involved.
Thank you. Mr. Newman.
Not being on council, it's kind of hard to answer those questions, but what I would like to see is more transparency coming out of the council. There's so many things that council passes in their meetings that are held during the daytime where normal people can't even get to them.
Well, by the time issues, slightly off topic, but by the time issues get to council chambers, you can pack the council chambers and the choice has already been made. We need transparency in the council. And we need more community involvement with that.
Thank you. Mr. Norris?
Would you be kind enough to repeat the question?
Sure. Please provide an example of a creative solution that you have championed if you've been on the council in the past or will champion to improve village efficiency or to resolve an issue impacting the village.
I was an active member of the Richfield Together campaign to save the Girl Scout camp. So legacy work. As a result of that, the legacy treasurer for 3 terms. And actually refinanced the bond issue that saved the taxpayer of Richfield $6 million. That's something from the past. Something from the present future, because I am someone currently running for re-election, is that I would like to see us focus more on what we're doing for the residents rather than what we're doing to attract people from outside the community.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, this is my first forage into public office, but from the private sector, I could say that through the Richfield Chamber of Commerce, which I'm a past president of, I do remember when they were going to close 303 to do road work totally. And the Chamber of Commerce in its early days, they rallied together, they got the news out there, they made an issue about it, and the contractor did have to put flagmen up and keep the road open and not close it for the period of time. That was one example. Another example, the Richfield Town Trust is a private organization, a 501c3. We were given the charge to monitor the scenic easement over the Carter Pedigo property. And that's a function that came about from that purchase and donation. And so my experience in the public has been limited, but working with the public, I plan on bringing that to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Stoppenhagen?
So as far as championing,
Yeah.
another word, individually, I haven't done excessive amounts of that, but I've been the chair of the cemetery board for several years and I've been on the cemetery board for a lengthy period of time. One of the things that we did recently, in collaboration with the board members, is we found a cheaper way to put in a columbarium in Fairview Cemetery, which doesn't sound like a lot to a lot of people, 300 or 600 steps of remains. But if your mom or your spouse has been sitting in your room for 4 or 5 years because there's no place to put them, it's a big deal. The group with the cemetery board found a better alternative than what we've been looking at. We're able to put it in. It got installed this year in Fairview Cemetery. It's beautiful. If you get a chance to drive around the back, you can't miss it. But championing, anyways, going forward, we've been talking about doing a cemetery expansion in West Richfield Cemetery, which is vital. We're almost out of graves there. And people want to be buried in West or they want to be buried in Fairview. There's really no, this would give us a tremendous amount of space. It's $650,000. And the budget is very, very tight. So I want to try to get that pushed through the next couple of years and get that put in.
Thank you. Mr. Wojtek?
As a new council member, I would like to champion something that everybody would have issues with, like traffic issues here in Richfield. You know, whether it's speeding on 303 or if it's the intersection right outside here on Broadview and 303 or over the big traffic issue over at Wheatley and Drexel Road. You know, as an engineer, I may not have the solutions right now, but I've listened to all the facts and see what's been done already, because I'm sure a lot of stuff has been done. But obviously, you go there, nothing has been done yet. So that'd be something I'd like to push forward and try to solve some of those issues for the community.
Thank you. Let's pass it down. Mrs. Campbell?
So I'm the trip coordinator for the senior center. And what at a staff meeting, we identified that we currently have less than 5% of the seniors in the village that are members at the senior center. And so working with the director and the staff and the mayor, what we've done is we've identified, we've created a flyer that we're going to be sending out to the entire 44286 zip code and highlighting all of the activities and special events and things like that to attract new members so that we can increase the membership. And we think that that's really an important thing because the senior center that we have here in Richfield is the Taj Mahal of senior centers in the entire area and probably the state. So that's something that we're pretty proud of, and you can look forward to that in the December issue of the Richfield Times. Thank you. This is it.
So I think one way that we can innovate moving forward is in relation to the historical water quality concerns in the south end of town in the Heights neighborhood. Now that the water tower has been installed and the lines run in town, I think that we can take a look at the engineering plans that were developed many years ago for running water lines to that part of town. But in addition to that, I think that we should also host a town meeting with the residents and explain to them what the project costs could potentially be per linear foot, and then see if the residents were willing to provide income information for that neighborhood so that the village could apply for possible community development grant, block grant funding to help offset the costs for running city water down in that part of the village. That could be a way to improve water quality in that neighborhood and help remove some of the burden for time to that system. Something innovative and different.
Thank you. We started with you, so let's pass the mic to Mr. Lyons. And let's go back to our final question that we had for the school board. Why are you running for membership on the Richfield Village Council?
Well, I would say that I'm running because I feel I can make a contribution to the process. I have been involved. I first ran in 1987. In 2 years, that will be 40 years ago. I think I was 30 years old at the time. So, but I've been directly involved most of that time. There've been a few years I've been not involved, I enjoyed those times. So one might ask, why would I want to become a councilman again? And that's a good question. And you have to question my judgment, perhaps, and make that decision. But then you'd have to question all of our judgments and make that decision. But I feel like I can make a contribution. I have a kind of institutional knowledge about what the history has been. And I think I could make a contribution to the process of deliberation and decision making. I'm a lawyer. I've represented public entities for the past close to 40 years. So this has been what my professional life has been also. So all those things, I just feel I can make a contribution. I grew up here, born here. There you go.
Mr. Newman, why are you running for membership on the Richfield Village Council?
I could start by saying that's the same question that my wife asked me. That all being said, we live on the south side of Richfield, and for the most part, what I've seen in 20 some odd years we've been here, there's been no actual representation
of a council member from that area. Like I said, I am not a politician, but recently retired, so I can devote as much time as I need to research things, of which I have, but it takes quite a bit of time to research things. Like I said, if you want to get something done, you have to get up and do it. You just cannot complain. You have to get involved. Probably all agree upon that, and do something.
Thank you. Mr. Norris.
My family moved here when I was in fourth grade. I attended Revere schools. My daughter graduated from Revere. She's 46 years old. My whole career has been, I've been a joiner or a volunteer. So I've only served one term. I would like to continue to serve or sacrifice, as I tell my friends and neighbors. I'm in my mid-70s, and one of the things I get teased about is that at this age I fix things and I know stuff, and so I'd like to continue to fix.
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong Richfield resident for a generation. My family's been involved in local public service. I grew up in that environment. My business I started in town 45 years ago is now being run by my sons. They both have houses. They both have houses here now and are raising their families. And I look forward to spending my time to continue the quality of life. It's been my pleasure and good fortune to enjoy. I feel as a councilman, I'll have the opportunity to get the information that I need to make the decisions that need to be made. It's hard to go to a meeting and have input. It's hard to talk about what's going on and hear about it from 3 or 4 different perspectives. But I feel that if I'm there and in the know, it makes a difference.
Thank you. Mr. Stephen Hagan.
I wasn't fortunate enough to live here my whole life, but my wife moved here in 1978. I've been in and out of Richfield since 1987 when she and I started going out. In 1989, when we got married, we lived with her mom and dad for 4 years before we took a 15-year hiatus to Medina. But in 2005, we bought her childhood home without question. We were not going anywhere else. We were going to live here. I was brought up to give back. My parents gave back. My wife and I give back. This is one of the things I can do. A friend of mine told me in 2019 when I ran the first time, if you're not going to do something about it, quit complaining. So I did, and I didn't win, but I got appointed. I won election in 21, so I have 1 4-year term left before I'm term limited out. And I'd like to continue to do the work that we've done. A lot of great things have happened in this town since 2019 when I got on council. And it's not just me, it's everybody who's on council, it's the administration. But working with the council and the administration and the residents to make sure this community continues to grow in the right direction and grow for progress and not grow for growth is something that I want to make sure I can be involved in.
Thank you. Mr. Wojtek.
Well, I've lived here in Richfield for a few years. My wife and I raised 2 children here, and now basically we're empty nesters. So now I have the time to get involved. I feel that with my engineering experience, I can be value to the village, which means I'm value to all the residents of the village. And I really want to get involved and try to do something, make it a better place to live. I mean, we love it the way it is now, but we don't want it to change too much. And that's one of my main priorities that I want to do.
Thank you. Yes, it's Mrs. Campbell.
All right. So first and foremost, the main reason that I want to be on council is I want to help people. As I walked around the village and I knocked on virtually every door, I heard story after story about people that needed help. And I want to help them. I want to make it easier to bring businesses to Richfield because I want them to fit into our small town feel, providing services that residents need, creating good paying jobs that will help fund essential services like our fire, our police, our EMS, and our dispatch, including our service and our animal control. I think we should make it easier for small and locally owned businesses to succeed. And it shouldn't take a long, long, long time to make that process happen. So that's why I want to be on council. Thank you. Mrs. Day.
I would like to be on council to ensure that our community is set for the long haul. We have two sons in high school currently, and what I see and love about Richfield, I would love for them to continue to have the ability to be a part of this community in the long term. I want them to live their life and come back and settle back down here. It's a wonderful area, beautiful, a lot of amenities. I want to ensure that not only my kids, but all of the residents here have a great quality of life and enjoy where they live. And in order to do that, we need to do the hard work, collaborate with not only the mayor, but the other council members on the problems facing the community and come up with reasonable solutions that budget conscious that can help support us for the long term. And that's why I want to be on council.
Thank you. Mr. Hudak.
So it goes way back for me. When I was just a kid, I remember our first two mayors coming to talk about tenements. It was at that time for me, Mr. Swan and Mr. Wolf, carving out a part of Richfield for density, creating an entity that could, with a 0.5% income tax, fund the fire department, maybe create a new police department. They thought Whitethorn Circle and Twig Road and Briarwood could be part of that. It just didn't work out that that could be part of Richfield Village at that time. So I carry that 60 years later, and I think, why do I want to do this? My God, all three of my wife's and my adult children live not in Richfield, no. I'm committed. Maybe something I should be committed, but I am committed. This is why I really enjoy what I do. And I'll tell you something, the council that I have served on, we don't always agree, but we always have each other's backs, and we all fight hard for this community. And I'd be honored to have another 4 years. I can't think of why I would not want
Mr. Lyons.
I started.
Oh, I'm sorry. So wait, you're going to start the next question, and Karen informs me we have time for another question. So there's been a few questions about transparency, and so let me ask this. What can be done to have issues and spending proceed through the proper number of readings and not have declaring an emergency on so many and passing them on the first reading?
Once again, like I stated before, all the meetings, majority of the meetings that they hold, zoning, planning, or whichever, mostly during the daytime hours, when the majority of people that affects cannot even attend them. We need to have the actual meetings at night when the residents can be them. Can be at the meeting, sorry. And I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Thank you.
No.
Mr. Norris. So what the question? What can be done to have issues and spending bills proceed through the proper number of readings and not have declaring an emergency on so many? So I assume spend declared during executive session and passing on the first reading.
Well, first, no action can be taken in executive session, so. Um, wasn't there something about making meetings more available?
Print.
Well, we have a great website that, makes it obvious of when all the meetings are. We have many committees of the village and boards of the village. I can speak about some of them. I'll speak mostly about council. While we have press at our meetings, we rarely have more than 2 residents at our meetings. Those are in the evening, so they are available to the residents. My experience over the last 4 years has not shown that we've had legislation passed with 1 reading as an emergency. A lot of those resolutions do have the emergency clause in them, but most often we go to 3 readings. The reason that we might pass them after 1 or 2 readings is timing issue, so that we are able to benefit from the resolution that's in front of us. So I think that there may be a misunderstanding. I think that we're available and open. So,
Thank you. Mr. Smith.
So I've been in a council meeting before and they passed a resolution and declared an emergency and vote on it. I've been in there. Sometimes there's suspending just the third or the second or the first. And it's a resolution that's pretty benign. And I'm like, what's the emergency? I don't get it. But part of the process is moving government along. And I'm sure as slow as government moves, whenever they can expedite it and speed it up, they do. I'd like to think that the big issues that require public input and that require a good vetting aren't passed like that, but more of the housekeeping stuff sometimes are handled that way. But I've never been on council and I'm not sure just exactly how the process works in that situation, but that's my take on it. And if I'm elected, I would like to make sure that whatever is going to be decided, it's going to impact the residents, it's going to get the required time for the legislation is passed so that we can have input from the community and we can make a good rational decision what's best for the community based on the facts.
Thank you. Mr. Stavenhagen.
So adding declaring an emergency to legislation only speeds up the time it becomes effective after it's voted on. It doesn't require suspension of reading. So if you declare an emergency, it goes into effect immediately. If you don't declare an emergency, it's got to wait like 30 days. So declaring an emergency will allow us to put something in the next day. And a lot of times that's very advantageous. Suspension of second and third readings happens a lot. Sometimes it's for timing, sometimes it's benign. An officer is retiring, we want to give him a service weapon. So we wait a second and third readings. We've done it a lot more this year than I remember doing in the last 5. It's just seems to be everything is getting second and third readings waived, and I don't quite understand why. It doesn't happen because we're talking about an executive session. It doesn't happen because we're adding an emergency to it. There's a feeling amongst the members of council or the administration that something needs to be done right away, so we do it. Sometimes it's second and third, sometimes it's only third. It's something we need to step back from, have more deliberation, have more input from the residents. But as somebody said earlier, we have 2 or 3 residents that come to the meeting. If you don't come and don't give us your input, we don't know what you want. So we act in what we feel is the best interest of the village. Sometimes that means speeding legislation along.
Thank you. Mr. Whitehead.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, as I was walking around last night, knocking doors, I asked my wife the same question. I haven't been to any council meetings, but I read all the council minutes. And I'm looking on there, we spend this reading, then we have emergency. And I did not being on council, I have no idea what all that meant. And the only thing that first comes to me is I see that the prior meeting, there was an executive session. So without having any transparency and saying why that reading was not done, you know, it makes people question what's going on. Not saying it's bad, but we don't know what's going on. So if there was a little bit more transparency and it was written in the minutes why it was done, I think that would calm a lot of people's fears of what's going on behind the scenes. So I think we're back to transparency here. Just need a little bit more of that.
Thank you. Passing the mic back to Mrs. Campbell.
Hi. So I've gone to the meetings for 2 years consistently. And what I've seen is some pretty reasonable reasons for waiving the second and third readings. I haven't seen any exaggeration or reasons why they shouldn't. Sometimes when they go into executive session, that was where I was confused on. And so I took the time to find out what were the reasons why something could go into executive session. And I found out that there were 7 categories as to why something could be moved to go into executive session. And they were all pretty reasonable. Things like personnel matters, legal matters, collective bargaining, matters required by law to be kept confidential, security matters like emergency response protocols, hospital trade secrets, and property transactions. And at first I was like, well, property transactions, why could we need that? And I was given an example that was without the exact details on it, and it made perfect sense as to why that would happen. So because I do go to the council meetings and I'm able to talk with the different council members and the mayor, you can get the answers to those questions if you try. So that would be my answer to the question.
Thank you. Mrs. Day.
Well, it kind of stinks being at the end of the list. Most of what I was going to say, Jeff, Carol kind of covered. Executive session is its own unique animal, and there are items that are discussed that are privileged, and at the right time, those items are presented to the public and then voted on. I think transparency is wonderful. Each resolution is unique in its own manner, and as explained, there are some things that are routine and can be passed relatively quickly. There are other resolutions that require further thought and consideration and discussion, and so that makes sense for those to take 3-4 days. The best thing that any one of us can do is to attend those council meetings and ask questions during public comment periods for understanding. Attend them on Zoom if you can't make it into Village Hall. It's just understanding why each resolution is being passed at the timing that it's being passed. I also think that, for some items, maybe it requires better planning. Sometimes there may be things that come up and need to be passed immediately, and there are other things that we can have forethought and better plan out so that it can through those full three readings and then have. So, thank you.
Mr. Huda.
So I don't ramble on. I just want to, and I know where this is going, but would you please repeat the exact question?
There's that. What can be done to have issues and spending matters proceed through the proper number of readings and not have declaring an emergency on so many and passing on the first reading?
Okay, that's what I thought we were supposed to be focusing. As was said before, we are really careful about controversial items being read at least 3 times. Sometimes we actually delay it even more. If it's something we really think is controversial or subject to a lot of criticism, we don't. I can't even say typically. We don't ever push them through. It's housekeeping. It's things that are more or less boring things are already in the budget that we just have to, by law, have go before council, be adopted as a resolution or an ordinance. As far as something said about daytime hours, our department heads come to some of our committee meetings, and our committee meetings, if we hold them at night, they don't go home to their families, and typically we might have to pay overtime and it for council. So if it's a committee meeting, it's not a forum of council. And at that point, we do have those in the daytime on occasion, but we always report back to all of council. And those meetings are open.
Thank you. Mr. Lyons.
I think it was explained already that the charter, I think, requires, I think it's the charter, requires 3 readings of ordinances and resolutions, and that can be waived by a vote of council. So that is separate from the issue of an emergency, declaring an emergency in the resolution. That was explained. But so in order to waive second and third readings, or just the third reading, it has to be by a motion and vote of council. I think when council becomes familiar and more experienced, it becomes a little burdensome to read routine things 3 times. I think that's been covered by the discussion also. And then the habit might develop of suspending readings because things seem so routine. And I know over the years there have been times when we kind of pulled back on that so that we didn't always suspend readings because we kind of get in the habit of doing it. So I think it's fairly innocuous. And I think one other thing, I think the 3 readings is not just to help the public know what's going on. I think it's also to make sure the council considers and becomes familiar with what we're considering and adopting, because a lot of times it's new to us when it comes on the agenda. So having 3 readings allows for more deliberation.
Thank you. Okay. Well, that ends our question and answer period. And each candidate will now have 1 minute for a closing statement. And we'll begin with Mr. Norris.
I've been involved for a long time with local community affairs. I was actually a banker for the village of Richfield and had something to do with the financing of Village Hall. Being a council member for only 1 term, I would like the opportunity to have 1 more term, unlimited, to be able to apply some of the things that I've learned, some of the comfort that I've developed serving on my first term.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Okay, as mentioned before, I've been involved in several of the civic organizations in town. I see many familiar faces here. I've worked with a lot of you folks. A lot of you folks I've gotten to know through our business. And now that I have the time, I would like to take the skills and the history and the things that I've learned in Richfield here and apply them to the community and help steer the community in the direction that we want to go. Boy, Cleveland's working its way in, Akron's working its way up. We have a little gem here, and to be able to walk through the center of town and it virtually be in the same way that it was when I was in the 6th grade is amazing. Kudos to the people that have been the caretakers of our community, and I want to do my part. Thank you.
Mr. Stoppenhagen.
I've been on council for 6 years now. I've listened to what people have to say. I try to vote with what they want. I don't have an agenda. I don't have any other political aspirations. I'm not going to run for mayor. I'm not going to take on Bill Romer. I haven't been on council. I would lose that, by the way. I like being on council because I like to get back to the community that my wife and I call home. You're safe here. You can walk down the street and there's no fear. We have a great police department. We have a great fire department. We have a great service department. It's just a beautiful place to live. I want to continue to serve the people and exercise their will and try to get done what they want to have done.
Mr. Wojtek.
First, I want to thank everybody that put this together and all the villagers that came here. That's great. You know, I want to thank everybody that I talked to as I was walking around. I look forward to meeting everybody that I haven't met yet. You know, my wife and I have been here for 20 years. You know, we came here because it was a small town, you know, that we like the charm, the peaceful neighborhoods, and the small sense of community. You know, first off, I am not a politician. I'm an engineer. I'm a problem solver, and I have 30 years of leadership experience behind me. You know, I want to make sure that, you know, I believe in, you know, practical solutions, fiscal responsibility, and I base my decisions on facts and what neighbors want. Not everybody's going to get everything, but we want to listen to everybody. You know, I want to work to preserve our semi-rural character. You know, want to support our exceptional police and fire departments, and I want to make sure that we enforce our ordinances consistently and fairly. Thank you.
Okay, well, next year from Mrs. Campbell. And get Stewart.
Hi, I'm Carol. I want to thank Karen, the Richfield Civic Center organization, the League of Women Voters, and all of you for coming out tonight. Over the past many weeks, I've walked the village and knocked on virtually every door. I've listened to your stories and your ideas and see your pride in this community. On November 4th, we're going to elect 4 people to become part of a team of 7 village council representatives. And while the work can be complex, the heart of the job is simple. It's to serve the people of the village. And that's what I promise to do. The best decisions come when we listen to every voice from every corner of the village. When we include you in the big decisions, council can make more informed, community-focused decisions. And after talking with so many of you, I'm confident we can make that happen. I ask for your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters and the Richfield Civic Organization for hosting this event and for all of you for attending. I'd like to close with a thought that has been on my mind. I love this community, and I've been honored to serve you as an engaged resident on the Board of Zoning Appeals and on the Zoning Commission. Now I want to take that commitment and serve this community. I bring many years of public service experience to this position, and I will work collaboratively with the mayor and council, always focused on you, the residents. Our goal will be to pursue solid yet controlled economic growth, ensuring we maintain the unique character of Richfield, while establishing a budget that is strong and stable to carry out our community long into the future. With that vision, I humbly ask for your vote on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hudak.
This is kind of long, so I'm not back. Growing up in Richfield, I've lived here since before there was a Richfield. I'm a graduate of Revere. I have been appointed to serve on 2 Richfield Citizens of the Year committees and have served for 6 years under the Richfield Village BZA. I've been on 2 separate Revere scholarship committees and been a supporter and fundraiser both, and have been a Boy Scout co-leader. I'm a charter member of the Richfield Chamber of Commerce as well as past president. Currently in my 20th year on council, my wife and I support the annual Revere Police and Fire Department fundraising event. My education, licensing and environmental geology, is tailored to help with decisions regarding engineering projects like culverts. Serving the 4 mayoral administrations, I feel that I have the experience to work with Richfield's administration in Richfield day and night, always willing to help with residents' concerns. And thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lyons.
Appreciate the effort to put this on. I have been involved for nearly 40 years, pretty consistently and in depth, I would say. And that's the way I would participate if I were to be elected. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate hearing everybody's presentation here. I think we've got a lot of good people who are interested in serving on council, and I have mixed feelings about. I've always had mixed feelings about running for any office, and sometimes it's been very, like going to a fight. Back when I was first on council in the early 90s, for 4 years it was like going to a fight every meeting. More recently, we haven't had that kind of environment, and it's been really more of a pleasure to serve. So I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
Once again, I'd like to thank everybody that put this together for us tonight. My distinguished colleagues up here with us. And once again, I'm not a politician. I've spent 30 years as a blue collar worker, and I feel I could be more for the residents, which is what we need, somebody to look for and take care of our residents and go after their concerns. It just seems like, especially the senior citizens, where my side of town, we're the majority of. We seem to be the most neglected. But like I said, with that, that's all. You don't have to hold the sign up. Say God bless and have a good evening. Thank you.
Well, thank you. This concludes our time for both the 2025 Revere School Board and the Richfield Village Council Candidate Forum. Candidates, thank you for your participation this evening. It's so impressive to see such an involved and committed community, to see this audience, and I just want to thank you. So learn a lot. Go to Vote 411 for more information, and don't forget to vote. Thank you.